briefed our Russian friends about the latest about any progress or lack of progress in our talks. Well, I will have serious consultations with the Russian president tomorrow, and we continue to work with each other. Russia is also a permanent member of the Security Council, and we know that they were trying, together with China, to introduce a resolution to the Security Council for the cessation of hostilities. Obviously, now the situation has been changed, and I will have discussion with them that how it should be proceed.
The final question from IRIB, if we can hand over the microphone to the gentleman right there. Thank you.
خسته نباشید آقای عراقچی. از خدمتتون که دیروز آقای اردوغان صحبت‌هایی داشتن در میانجیگری، فکر می‌کنید نقش ترکیه در این رابطه به چه ترتیب خواهد بود؟ میتونه ترکیه در واقع در این رابطه نقشی ایفا بکنه برای حل این مسائل و سرگیری دیپلماسی، یا فکر می‌کنید که بی‌ثمر باشه؟
من دیروز ملاقات بسیار خوبی رو با جناب آقای اردوغان رئیس جمهور محترم ترکیه داشتم. هم ترکیه و هم برخی کشورهای دیگه در منطقه خواهان ایفای نقش مثبت برای خاتمه تجاوزات رژیم صهیونیستی به ایران بودند و من اطمینان دارم که از امروز هم تلاش‌های جدیدی رو شاید شروع بکنن برای جلوگیری از ادامه مخاصمه توسط آمریکا. ترکیه با قاطعیت حملات اسرائیل رو محکوم کرد. کشورهای دیگه منطقه هم همینطور. الان یک محکومیت جامع در کل منطقه و بین کشورهای اسلامی وجود داره در محکومیت جنایات اسرائیل. ما دیروز یک جلسه خاص تجاوز اسرائیل به ایران رو در نشست وزرای امور خارجه کشورهای اسلامی داشتیم که جلسه بسیار خوبی بود. کشورهای متعددی در این جلسه صحبت کردن، از جمله ترکیه که ریاست جلسه رو هم به عهده داشت، در محکومیت جنایات اسرائیل و در ضرورت توقف این تهاجم و از جمهوری اسلامی ایران حمایت کردند. حمله دیشب یک جنایت بسیار بزرگ بود، نه فقط علیه ملت ایران بلکه علیه منشور ملل متحد، علیه تمامی قوانین و مقررات بین الملل، علیه نظام عدم اشاعه. و آمریکا با این کار خودش ضربه بسیار بزرگی رو به صلح و امنیت بین الملل زد. به اعتقاد ما آنچه که شورای امنیت و جامعه بین الملل باید باهاش به عنوان تهدید علیه صلح و امنیت بین الملل برخورد بکنه، دقیقاً رفتار آمریکاست که هم نظام بین الملل رو به چالش کشیده و هم منطقه ما رو به سمت تنش و آشوب پیش میبره و این بسیار خطرناک است. حمله دیشب آمریکا نشان داد که اسرائیل، رژیم صهیونیستی، در رسیدن به اهداف خودش در ایران ناکام مانده و برعکس به خاطر صدماتی که متحمل شده در اثر دفاع قهرمانان نیروهای مسلح ایران در شرایط بحران قرار گرفته و چاره‌ای جز این که از آمریکا کمک بخواد نداشته و دخالت آمریکا دقیقاً برای نجات رژیم صهیونیستی، یا بهتره بگیم نجات نخست وزیر این رژیم، صورت گرفت. و اینکه چقدر کاخ سفید تحت تاثیر شخص نتانیاهو قرار داره باید باعث تأسف و خجالت برای کل مردم آمریکا باشه. ما به دفاع قهرمانانه خودمون ادامه خواهیم داد. نیروهای مسلح ما در آمادگی کامل قرار دارند. مردم ما با اعتماد به نفس و روحیه بالا هستند. غرور ملی ایران جریحه‌دار شده. غرور ملی ایرانیان خدشه‌دار شده و ما هرگز از حقوق و منافع خودمون و عزت خودمون و حیثیت خودمون کوتاه نخواهیم آمد. از توجه شما بسیار متشکرم.
We do have time for one or two more questions. I'd like to hand over to Bloomberg Haberturk.
Mr. Minister, thank you very much for doing this. And I'll come from Haberturk and Bloomberg HD. You said attacks at nuclear facilities are red line and you are calculating your response. So here is the question. What are the options? Are you going to retaliate at US bases in the region, or are you going to considering to close the Strait of Hormuz? And one more question as well. 2 times while you are at the table of negotiation, Israel and US attacked your soil. So do you still have the same level of trust to Western diplomacy? Thank you.
There are a variety of options available to us, and that's it. We never trusted Western countries when we negotiated them, and there are now even more reasons why we shouldn't trust them at all. Of course, the way for diplomacy should be always remain open. But, as I said, we are not in the situation right now to decide how to engage in diplomacy once again and with whom. So, let's wait for our response first. And when the aggression is ended, we decide how to engage in diplomacy once again.
Next, over to NTV.
And even as Abbas Araqchi, the foreign minister of Iran, saying that he doesn't really trust the NPT at this point in time, speaking highly about their strategic partnership with Russia and how Russia and Vladimir Putin were kept in the loop over the recent talks with the United States vis-a-vis the nuclear agreement, which right now seems to be off the table. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he has in fact spoken with the president of Iran, Pezeshkian, and he says that we discussed in detail about the current situation, expressing deep concern at the recent escalations, reiterating our call for immediate de-escalation, for dialogue and diplomacy as the way forward for early restoration of regional peace. My colleague and senior executive editor Aditya Rajkol with us here on the broadcast. Aditya, ever since the news erupted of the B-2 bombers, dropping those large ordinances on the nuclear sites in Iran, there's been so much of hectic parlays when it comes to diplomacy, and now Prime Minister Narendra Modi getting in touch with Pezeshkian, talking about de-escalation. How can you help the viewers here, and where do you see this deadly conflict now heading? Aditya, are you with us? Can you hear us in the studio?
Yes.
Aditya, the last 24 hours, so much of escalation that has in fact taken place. The West Asian crisis has taken place. Mr. Modi getting in touch with Iranian President Pezeshkian. Well, seems like a little bit of a technical difficulty. We're going to quickly try and patch Aditya back with us. But that's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's latest reaction. He's taken to social media platform X, saying that I expressed deep concerns with my discussion with Iranian President Dr. Pezeshkian at the recent escalations that have taken place. I reiterated our collective call for immediate de-escalation, for dialogue and diplomacy as the way forward for early restoration of regional peace, security and stability. Meanwhile, the Foreign Minister of Iran, Abbas Araqchi, addressing the media at the Turkish Foreign Ministry ramparts, telling the world that Iran quite rightly condemns the attack and the escalation on its nuclear sites, for the entry of United States officially in this particular warfare, and that United States did not just bomb the nuclear sites, it also bombed the UN Charter. We also have some snippets from this particular press brief by Abbas Araqchi. Listen in to what the foreign minister had to say. This is the first official foreign minister's response after United States dropped the bunker busters on 3 of Iran's nuclear sites, at Fordow, at Isfahan, and another one as well.
The U.S. military attack on the territorial integrity and national sovereignty of a UN member state, carried out with genocidal Israeli regime, carried out in collusion with the genocidal Israeli regime, has once again revealed the extent of the United States' hostility towards the peace-seeking people of Iran, who will never compromise over their independence and sovereignty. The Islamic Republic of Iran continues to defend Iran's territory, sovereignty, security, and people by all means necessary against not just U.S. military aggression, but also the reckless and unlawful actions of the Israeli regime. While President Trump was elected on a platform of putting an end to America's costly involvement of forever wars in our part of the world, he has betrayed not only Iran by abusing our commitment to diplomacy, but also deceived his own voters by submitting to the wishes of a wanted war criminal who has grown accustomed to exploiting the lives and wealth of American citizens to further the Israeli regime's objectives.
Well, News9 senior executive editor Aditya Rajkol back with us on the broadcast here. Aditya, you've got the Prime Minister's reaction now. He's gotten in touch with the Iranian president and spoken about de-escalation. And you've got the Iranian foreign minister in that first media briefing saying that there's no room for a diplomacy at this point in time. Is de-escalation even possible right now? Dialogue and diplomacy, do you think the atmosphere is conducive for something like that, even as the Prime Minister now gets in touch with the Iranian president?
Well, Kabir, India from the very beginning has maintained that there has to be dialogue and diplomacy that needs to be maintained in the current conflict between Iran and Israel. And even after the B-2 bombers and the United States formally joined the war against Iran by attacking 3 nuclear facilities, including Natanz and, of course, Fordow, there has been significant damage. There have been casualties. There are many people who have died and who have injured also in this attack. India has maintained now again in this latest call that Prime Minister Narendra Modi had with the President of Iran, Pezeshkian, reiterating that in the current situation, de-escalation should be the only option and dialogue and diplomacy should continue. This is similar to how US had, intervened when India and Pakistan had a confrontation. But at this particular time, it does seem that there will be escalation. You've already seen the kind of Iranian, missile attacks that have happened in Tel Aviv. In many civilian areas also, there are some casualties that are expected. A lot of buildings and critical, infrastructure has been attacked as well. So it does seem, there are efforts as of now by several countries in the Middle East and those who are in touch with Tehran to de-escalate the situation. We've also seen statements from Saudi Arabia and Oman that have come in. The U.S. bases across the Middle East, particularly in Saudi Arabia and, of course, in UAE, are on a state of high alert as of now because one of the direct targets of the Iranian, revenge or, response could be the U.S. bases all across the Middle East. So it does seem that Iran would be, responding in the next 24 hours against the United States as well. Will better sense prevail across the Middle East? Doesn't seem so immediately. But Donald Trump has also made it very clear that he is not going to attack again. Attacks were only against the nuclear facilities, and as of now, no further attacks will be expected unless, of course, Iran decides to attack U.S. infrastructure, U.S. military, or U.S. bases across the Middle East.
One also has to understand, Aditya, and help the viewers here, because once the dust settles, there's going to be so much of revamping and restructuring that's going to have to be looked at. These red lines that Abbas Araqchi says, new red line is being crossed every new day. The escalation in the rhetoric is only getting higher. And yesterday we were looking at 1 week of the initial attacks. Was it going to go down from there? Well, clearly not. On the 8th day, you've got US that's now entered this war officially. Tomorrow, Abbas Araqchi is going to be meeting with Vladimir Putin. He said, I've been in constant touch with our partners in Kremlin, and we've been briefing them exactly as to what's been happening in the recent talks with US as well. So tomorrow, it seems like Putin, at least on the periphery side, is also going to officially enter the war here. He's going to be in serious consultations, is what Abbas Araqchi says. And they take what Russia says very seriously, isn't it?
Absolutely, Kabir. Over the last many weeks and months, there has been support, considerable support, in fact, that is coming in from Russia, from China, from Pakistan, towards Iran. But how much will they continue to support when it comes to defense, when it comes to strategic pursuits in the region, especially when US has entered the fray, will be very significant. There were reports that Russia may not fully engage. As of now, of course, they have been providing, a lot of military support to Iran over the years. It would be very critical to see what happens in the next 24 to 48 hours. As of now, Middle East seems to be on a brink with the U.S. bombers really attacking the nuclear facilities in Iran, almost swearing revenge. It does seem things are out of control as of now. Of course, Israel is on almost a red alert. Educational institutions have been shut. Medical emergencies have been declared. Several places in central Israel, including in Tel Aviv and around Tel Aviv, have been attacked in the last few hours. And, of course, Israeli airstrikes also continue towards Iran, particularly in Tehran, Shiraz, and many other similar locations where the ballistic missile launcher places have been attacked by the Israeli Air Force and the Israeli Navy as well. So there are hectic diplomatic parleys that have continued over the last few hours, not just the Indian Prime Minister, who is on a very important position because he's engaging both with Israel as well as with Iran. There are several other countries who are also engaged in this, particularly in the Middle East, because countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan, Egypt do not want an escalation in the region. They also do not want to fully militarily engage. While Saudi and UAE have condemned the Israeli airstrikes, at the same time, they've also stopped the ballistic missiles that have been coming in from the Iranian side. So it does seem that they have a neutral approach in this kind of a conflict that has emerged in the region. But as I said, the next few hours would be very crucial. It all depends on what Tehran decides to do. On social media, people from Tehran who are close to the regime clearly indicate that there will be revenge, clearly indicate that it is US which has started this, and it is Iran which will end this kind of a conflict. That doesn't seem really good news for the Middle East. And there's been a lot of hot and cold approach from the United States, as you rightly pointed out. They first gave Tehran 2 weeks to respond and then suddenly attacked. In the past also, Donald Trump had said that they had nothing to do with the Israeli attacks in Iran, and then suddenly said that they had control over the skies, Iran. So as of now, of course, Israel wants to create a new reality in the Middle East, and that does mean political change in Iran. At the same time, Donald Trump has made it categorically clear that his aim is not political change. His aim is to ask Iran to stand ground and come to the dialogue table.
All right then. News9's senior executive editor, Aditya Rajkol, helping us read between the lines here. And like Aditya pointed out, the next few hours are going to be absolutely crucial here.
ईरान ने इजराइल पर मिसाइल दाग दिए हैं। इस वक्त सायरन बज रहा है और इस वक्त देखिए कि सभी लोग सुरक्षित बंकर की तरफ भाग रहे हैं। माय गॉड, मैं जहां पर खड़ा हूं, इधर मैं जहां पर खड़ा हूं उस वहां पर भी भयानक हमले हुए। ये देखिए रोहित, अगर आप दिखा रहे होंगे, ये देखिए धाम जहां पर मैं खड़ा हूं वहां पर, ये देखिए आपको लगातार, ये देखिए।
That's the situation in West Asia today as United States overnight bombed and dropped the bunker busters on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. Let's break down exactly what all has transpired. Now, Donald Trump announced that the United States had successfully completed strikes on 3 nuclear sites in Iran and claimed that these key enrichment facilities over there at these 3 locations had been totally and completely obliterated. The sites that were struck were the Fordow nuclear site, the Natanz and the Isfahan nuclear sites. Now, the Fordow fuel enrichment plant, located some 100 kilometers southwest of Tehran, it was bombed. About 6 B-2 United States bombers dropped 12 bunker busters. This is the GBU-57. Never before has this massive ordnance been dropped by the United States ever before. American B-2 bombers were used in these strikes, and sources are telling us that the US also utilized a 30,000-pound bunker buster bomb called the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator, or an MOP, with 6,000 pounds of explosives. And these bombs are able to penetrate about 18 meters of concrete or 61 meters of earth before they finally explode. According to experts, it's the first known instance of the bomb being used operationally. On the other hand, you've got Navy submarines that fired 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles and at two different of the sites, Natanz and Isfahan, and a B-2 separate bomber dropped 2 bunker busters on Natanz nuclear site as well. The B-2, the stealth bomber that you can see on your screens, that struck the Iranian nuclear sites early Sunday, flew non-stop for about 37 hours from their base in Missouri, refueling several times mid-air. Iranian officials have also said that there is no danger to the residents living near these nuclear facilities hit by US strikes. According to Iranian state media, they're all safe. There's no leakage, no radioactive leak. Senior Iranian sources have also told that most of the highly enriched uranium at Fordow was moved to an undisclosed location. We've got satellite images that show us about high and heavy logistical movement just hours before this strike took place at the Isfahan, at the Fordow nuclear base. The OSINT, the entire account on social media, shows that prior to the US strikes at Fordow, there was an increase in logistics at the site, hinting at the last-minute evacuation from Iran's nuclear site. And it seems that the US response was indeed delayed, and the Iranians were informed beforehand about the impending attack. Earlier, CBS, citing US officials, claimed that Washington contacted Tehran through diplomatic channels on Saturday night to inform it that its plans were limited to airstrikes and did not seek regime change. Abbas Araqchi, the Republic's foreign minister, said that the United States violated the UN Charter and the international law by attacking Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities. He said that the attack is outrageous and will have far-reaching consequences.